Hello, good evening and welcome. Welcome to your awesome show, Glow with Mary. As usual, we're here to discuss another sizzling topic. This time, as this season, in the next few weeks, like I said, we'll be talking about parenting in different aspects. And this evening, we're going to be sharing and learning and equipping each other about supporting our children in their life's choices. As parents, of course, we want the best for our children. But sometimes things don't go according to plan or as we feel it should. And more often, we see that as a reflection of how well or not we're doing, especially if it's not the way that we wanted things to go. And sometimes the disappointment, causes a gap or distance in relationship. Anyway, so we'll be sharing with each other about how to embrace that and deal with every issue that may come about in the process, because it's a common occurrence actually, especially nowadays when children are beginning to find their own value and perspective to life. With me in the studio today, I've got Susan Popola. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please tell us a bit about what you do. I love your title, by the way.
Okay. I have given myself a title, which is Human Value Optimization.
Yes.
And that's based on the fact that I do a number of different things, which all amount to the recognition that everyone has value, that individuals have value that they need to recognize, and that everyone in society, in business, in education, needs to recognize that as well. So I do a few of the key things that I do is I work as a human resources consultant. So working with organizations, individuals to recognize value within. I've been a school governor. I write books. I've written a couple of books, working on my third. Wow. And I do quite a lot of work around young people and their purpose, destination as well. Yeah, I know. I can identify with your books because I think we first met when you were the author of the year at the Women for Africa in 2013. That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll be coming to all of that later. Okay. And Henry, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, tell us a bit about what you do, because you'll be representing the youth this evening.
Well, I'm Henry Pansa, and I'm the creative director for 101 Clothing brand, and it's basically clothes, the making of clothes with a touch of Western print, African print, to at least to brand the whole Western material with a blend of African prints to come out in a way that will probably suit most especially the youth. And over the years, we started in 2011, and as at 2015, we've been trying so hard to spread the gospel in terms of clothes to reach everybody who obviously want to call us for outfit.
Yes.
And
that's great. Yeah, I like the way you said for the youth, because I've got few of your pieces, so it means when I'm putting those on, I feel youthful, which is really good.
For every stylish person out there, we just make their appearance our priority.
Yes, that's great. Okay, and you both be pleased to know that this topic have generated lots of interest on social media. I've got phone calls, and so some of the things we'll be sharing and some of the questions I'll be, asking you are things that have been asked already. And I'm going to start with you, Susan. One of the key things, and that interests me especially, is being present. Somebody spoke about being present for our children.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's your perspective on that, and how can we use that to support our children?
I guess the key is understanding what is meant by being present. Because especially if we come from an African perspective,
yes,
a lot of the time the focus with children is that we feed them, that we look after them,
wow,
and that we clothe them and we educate them. Those things are very important, but it goes beyond that. Being present is when you're there on a one-to-one basis, where you develop a relationship with the child. You understand who the child is, what motivates the person, what interests them, what they like to do, whether it's socially or whether it's in terms of subjects that they enjoy in school, to what they'd like to become. That you develop an understanding of those things and you nurture and you develop those things. I mean, I could go further in terms of understanding when a child has issues or concerns, that you know the child so well that if there's something wrong, you can sense it without the child speaking about it. But then also the child has that confidence that if there's something going on in their life that they're happy about or they're sad about, a relationship, what have you, they can talk to you because they have that relationship. And that's what being present is about.
Yeah, so it goes beyond living in the same household. And the good thing about that, from what I could pick from what you're saying, is if you have that kind of relationship, you can probably actually sense earlier on which way things will go. So if eventually they come up with it, some of the things that we'll be touching, then it wouldn't come as a full surprise or disappointment, really, because, you know, you...
And I don't have children myself, and that gives me the advantage of being parent or associating myself with a lot of young people. But also I can say with my nephews and nieces over the years, with most of them, I've developed a good relationship with them, such that we talk. I'm present, even those that are in a different country. But at times I can just look up their Facebook updates and I can tell you what's happening. Because I know them that well and I can pick up on things.
Yeah, that's true. Henry, tell us a bit about your journey before you get to fashion designing, because one of the things that is embedded in today's topic is education, vocation, and entrepreneurship.
Okay, my journey. Okay, you know, it wasn't, growing up, I'd love to play with colors. I'd love to do different things at a different time. But my interest growing up was all about designing, fashion and designing. And honestly, my parents never liked the idea of me going into designing. I remember my mom once said something like, why would you want to be into designing whilst your friends will probably be medical doctors and stuff like that, and you probably be in a container elsewhere so for people to so you know, after now we laugh about it, we just think about it, we laugh about it. And my dad too was very, 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 you know, authoritative. So what he said was, okay, fine, how about you being a medical doctor? So I never liked it though, but growing up, I realized, you know, I went to school, and since I came from my family, in my family, they business-minded people, honestly, and you know, I grew up in a busy home. You wake up, mommy's gone, daddy's gone, so there'll be school fees for you, obviously. There'll be driver to take you to school, but you come back home, daddy's not home, you sleep, you wake up, daddy and mommy is not around. So it gave me the edge for me to discover myself really, really well, because lucky enough, when I went to school, elementary school, most of my friends were teachers. I never had the opportunity to play with my mates, honestly, because I was so curious to discover something myself. And there was this graphic designing class that the teacher really liked me. So I could go to him and ask him several questions, and the results will come out, and I'll probably be on top of his particular subject. So we found a way, he wanted to find a way to talk to my dad, but he wouldn't, because PTA meeting, my daddy wouldn't be there, and my mom wouldn't also be there as well. So we decided to, okay, let's see what happens if, as time goes on, maybe probably they're really gonna accept the designing thing. But I ended up in high school, and it was the same. So when I went to high school, I was enrolled as a science student, just because I was first in the integrated science. My dad had this whole it really boosted his spirit that, oh, I said that he can be a medical doctor. He just doesn't want to do it. So I went to high school, and I changed my course. You know, it just came up one time. I confronted a teacher, and since most of my friends were teachers, I could sit with some of them. You know, I made some of them my parents. And the journey through my life too has always been, there's no single person in my life that probably affected me negatively. They all affected me positively.
We were talking about that. Actually, there's something about that on social media as well, about having a role model, positive role model.
Positive.
Yeah.
Positive. So I could sit my teachers down, and I'll discuss with them, this is what I want to do and stuff like that. So Reverend Sister Clarence said to me, you know, just take it to prayers and let's see if it works. So it was really tough for me to change my course from the science to the general arts. It was really tough because it got to a point of time that I didn't even want my reports to get home. Because obviously your daddy's gonna see, and he told you that, what do you mean by that? I pay your school fees, I pay this, I give you money for this, I do this for you, and I'm telling you to offer be in a medical school, and you're telling me you don't want to be in a medical school. That is something out of proportion. So I told my teachers, and finally I had the courage to change my course. When I changed my course to general arts, and it started. So when I was going to uni, he told me to do hospitality and tourism.
Okay.
And it was way off the bar. So I was telling him that I told him, Daddy, this thing is not really helping me, because I can't do something that there is no passion in it. And I told some of my teachers, and since they've been my friends for years, I could just go to their house and sit them down and talk to them, and they go like, your daddy has never been in support of what you're doing, but you know what you're going to do? What you have to do is make it your hobby. The least chance you get, learn something, and let's see what happens.
That's a good way around it, actually.
Very, very, very.
Were you happy with that, though, or you did it just to keep your father happy?
No. Yeah, sure. In a way, I did it to please my dad, because my daddy is not the type of daddy that you can sit down and share your problems with. He's not the type of dad. He's the type of dad that he's very loving all the same. He's very loving all the same, but the type of dad that will tell you, you know what, you were a man, you're supposed to do this. I was expecting you to read wider. You know, when you see that tree up there, when you climb it up there, I grew up in a business-minded home, so it was everything around my dad was business. Everything around my dad is business. So for you to even have 15 minutes to talk with him is a plus, because when he gets back from work, very exhausted, and he takes his graphic, begins to read. What's the headline for today's news? He asks this as some of the questions he asks, but you would never get the chance to sit with him and tell him your personal problems. So I decided to make it a hobby, and I started. So I started with something, and it was gradually, you know, it was gradually moving. So I came up with an idea to make an outfit for him. And the first idea was I was gonna make it for my cousins at home. So I made it for my cousins at home, and they wore for us. They wore it one Sunday. My dad was like, "Oh, this is nice. Where did you get it from? It's very lovely." And my mommy too not really being in support of it, because you know my dad doesn't really support it. So obviously it'll be hard for mommies to come into, you know.
Yeah.
But mommies will go like, you know what, just follow your heart, or you know, we just do his course for him. When he finish and when he graduate for him, then you can start what you want to do.
And that's, you know, the crunch of it, isn't it? Getting our children to a place where, rather than start off with what they want, you know, they do something to please us. And, you know, it's becoming more and more common. I think a couple of weeks ago we were talking about this, and between the three of us sitting here, we had about 2 examples.
Was it?
Yeah, of people who's gone off to do first degree of something because their parents wanted them to be this.
Yeah.
And then some of them went up to do another degree.
My dad said something like that, you know, he's like, you know, just do first degree this, and your master's you can focus on what, no, was it my uncle or my teachers, one of them, just do daddy's thing for him. Masters, you just go and further on what you want. And I was telling him, you know, I'll probably find difficulty in masters because you have little knowledge about what you're gonna learn. Obviously, although you have
a build on what you've done in the. So Susan, in your experience, how does that resonate?
It's quite common. I mean, a lot of the time, people fall into that pattern because it's what their parents believe is best for them. Sometimes it's, I don't know what to do. And there is that view that you should have a degree. And we could talk about whether you need to have a degree or not. And even if you do, when you go for that degree. So there's a lot of that, and it is quite common for young people to go study qualifications because their parents want them to. But the key is, it's just like you mentioned, studying medicine and becoming a doctor. Questions that parents have to ask themselves is why? Is it because they believe it's more prestigious? Because you could have a manual job, and it's not a curse.
Yeah.
Which actually, if you're in a manual job, you're contributing to people's lives. You're helping to build, possibly helping to build houses, and you might be paid better.
Yes.
Than someone that is, should I say, one of the key things that we consider as professions. So there's that side of it. So and even in terms of security, you're not necessarily more secure because you have a degree. And if you think, because there is that traditional view that we have to have a doctor, we have to have a lawyer, and we have to have an accountant,
and a nurse.
So it's so common. It's so common everywhere, you know.
But there is a reality as well. Is if you have a child that is in one of those professions, it might sound good to say it, but that child, if they're being really and truly ethical, they can't treat you.
No, they can't. Doctor. Yeah, exactly. They cannot represent you in the court of law.
Exactly. So I think the key question is why. It's quite common, but I think people need to start asking the question why, and what is it that you really want for your child as a person? Do you want your child to be someone that everyone within society looks at and says, oh, he's a doctor.
Yeah.
He's an accountant. There's nothing wrong with those if that's what they want.
Exactly.
Or do you want your child to be happy and fulfilled?
Yeah.
Doing something, well, yes, it's important that you have a good income, but that you're doing something that is happy and fulfilled. And dare I say, that is in line with your purpose as a person.
Yes.
God-given, or however you view things.
And I think that is one of the things we miss as parents, especially if we go to the African concept again. We cannot take that out of the equation because
Obviously.
that affects most of our thinking and decision. Because look at it this way: if you have 4 children, for example, and number 3 is a doctor, the minute they go into medical school, you become doctor's mother, doctor's dad.
So you even lose your own identity.
Yeah, you lose your own identity. People in your community forget you've got 2 other children before. They are still in the medical school, remember? They haven't even graduated. So if 3-4 years down the line, this guy or lady thinks, I don't want to do medicine anymore, all hell will break loose.
You know, my grandma, I visit my grandma and her friends around her like, oh, still your grandson, oh, the doctor to be, no, that's nice, you know. And she'll be feeling all these vibes around, and you know, when I pour my heart out to her, and they got to see the progress, the fashion shows, the awards and stuff like that. Although I know my dad is very proud of it, but deep down, you know, he just, you know, kind of, because it was when most of them, my dad he thought I didn't know what I was doing, but upon seeing a good positive progress, obviously now I'm sure he's very. My mom is very different. My mom supports me what I do now. You know, my mom will probably let me know.
How long did it take her to come round and support you? Did you have that support from the beginning?
No, because at the beginning, they all thought I was a confused person. You know, they all thought I was confused. So they could call father. They could call father and talk to father about it, and father will probably say,
maybe he's a deliverance.
No, but he's all right. He just needs to follow his heart. But you know, with a stanched African home, it's never like that. You know. So my mom saw the progress. Anytime I'm going on stage for fashion events, my dad wouldn't hear about it, but my mom will hear about it obviously. But my dad's friends will call him and like, oh, I saw a branch on telly. Oh really? Who? My son? Yeah, I saw your son on telly. This person will call, other people will call, new people outside will call in and stuff like that. So he realized, you know, so he was a bit shocked how I could get there. But at a point of time, I think maybe when he sits down, he'll probably begin to think that maybe it was because most of my friends were, most of the people I call parents were adults, were teachers and stuff like that, motivational speakers and stuff like that.
Have you ever had that conversation with him though, where he says, okay, you haven't been a doctor, but you're doing this and I'm happy for you, and...
Not yet.
Not yet, oh my God, you've been doing it for 4 years.
But not yet, you know, but with my mom can call me, we talk about it, but it's sometimes it even amazes me when my mom calls me to get the update, you know, so what are your plans, what are sometimes, you know, so sometimes I call her and ask her a few questions, you know, because, you know, with my job, you work with ladies in terms of modeling and stuff like that. So sometimes I call her to get tips, you know, in order for me not to screw up, because ladies, honestly, it's a whole package, you know. So sometimes I call her to get all those things and stuff like that, and my dad will see it, but he will pretend like he's never heard that story.
And that is the sorry, Susan, you were going to say.
I was going to say there is always the probability that your mom would be updating him.
Obviously,
He'll be very much aware of what
it's obvious.
succeed.
Yes.
Any nomination, probably any nomination I get, my mom, I call my mom and I let her know, and I know my dad would obviously hear about it, but you know, dad will pretend like he's so busy, you know, with work and stuff like that. But deep down, I know now he's a bit calm, although he doesn't really show it more. Yeah, but you know,
he'll come around.
Yeah, because you know, because
yes.
Yeah, because I was going to say, there's a thing. I mean, parents need to understand their children. The children, as they grow, it's useful for them to understand parents as well. And a lot of parents, and I'm stereotyping, and
we can take it.
Yeah, specifically the traditional older African man doesn't always express his feelings.
Emotions, yeah.
So the fact that he doesn't say anything doesn't mean that he's not proud.
Yes.
It will be in the little things that he does that you'll begin to realise that he's probably more appreciative of what you've achieved than what you actually realise.
My grandma still calls me a doctor though. She goes like Doctor of Fashions. That's what she says.
Okay, there you go.
Couldn't be a medical doctor, but then he's still Doctor of Fashions. And I see her mostly, and you know, when she welcomes me with a Doctor of Fashions and stuff like that, it's a kind of feeling that, you know, is amazing, honestly, because at least if your grandma or you know, because my family, it's they most concerned about status. My family is my dad, my grandpa. It's all about status.
I think most most African family will be like that. You achieve this, you are engineered that, and that. But here in the UK, there are some things you can get by deed poll, and you know, off you go. You become a lady, a baroness, you know, a princess. You know, and off you go. But with those, we attach some hard work to it. And I think that is why there is value and appreciation in it, and they think, and I think it's about changing their perception as well about the fact that, like you rightly say, Susan, you can work hard and be what and who you want to be without falling into any of those 3, 4, 5 boxes.
Yeah, and I think a key thing is, and this I guess is directed towards young people or parents that are concerned about what other people might think. And a key thing is to get people to recognise the value in what you do, why you do it, the impact of what you're doing. I mean, you mentioned Doctor of Fashion. Well, actually, in a way it is, because you have a lady, for instance, who's sitting down wearing whatever she's wearing. She goes into a room, puts on your designs, and she looks very good. It affects her externally, how people. So that is, in a way, it is a doctor. That has high value.
Because there was a time my daddy's friend was, you know, when they meet somebody, they do brag about their kids a little bit, and the other one son was probably he's soon to be a banker, and he was telling my dad, you know, my son is yet to be a banker and stuff like that, and my dad would go like, you know my son, you know the little one, oh, did you see that award ceremony they celebrate war? You know, that was his outfit. He made. Oh, is it? Your son has really. Oh, then you know. Yes. But when I'm with him, it's a different thing. He pretends like.
But that's clear evidence that he is
proud and happy. And I think that's where we need to get to. This is a message we're trying to get across to our viewers and people who will be watching this maybe now or later, that the most important thing is to embrace, support, and be happy, and let them know that, you know, although it didn't go that way, you're still happy that it's happened. Yes, so I was going to talk about vocational studies, because yes, there is educational qualification, going to college, going to uni, and then there are other things that can be done outside of uni as well, which, you know, can take one further and can help you to be who you want to be. So I think we had this discussion about apprenticeship.
Yes. Because I think, traditionally, there was that focus on degrees.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a degree, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Though there's a question as to the timing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do a degree immediately.
Mm-hmm.
There's even value in doing it further down the line, when you're more aware of who you are. You've got some work experience, so you have a better understanding, and you also have to think of the cost as
and
well,
the relevance,
and the
so
relevance, what you want to be, and who you want to work, where you want to work, how they would value degrees. And there is an alternative. There are a number of options. A lot of organisations do it, especially large organisations have internal training programs. So even if you want to go down that white collar route, but there's a big focus on apprenticeships. And apprenticeships, the interesting thing is you even have graduates that are going for apprenticeships as a way of getting into the workplace.
Yes.
Because contrary to promises, it's not always easy to get a graduate job as soon as you finish. And the key with apprenticeships, they're not for everyone, but there is definitely a place for them. And there are different types of apprenticeships. The apprenticeships that you might do when you've just finished secondary school, or finished your A-levels, or international, whatever, BTEC, whatever qualification you do in school, you can do an apprenticeship at that lower level. You have higher apprenticeships as well, and higher apprenticeships, a lot of corporate organisations are now providing for higher apprenticeships, which some people might equate to degrees.
Degree, yes.
They are different, but they might equate to degrees. But you can actually go into a professional area, such as engineering, or my area, human resources, through a higher apprenticeship, and IT through higher apprenticeships. So there is the different types of apprenticeships. You don't have the cost that you have when you go to university. So that's something else to consider. I mean, I guess a key difference between an apprenticeship and a degree, and again, this is a generalization. An apprenticeship is very much focused around a career path. You've decided that this is the path I want to go on, short term or long term, because if you speak to a lot of people, they're say my age, younger, older, we start off in one direction and then we go in a different direction. But your apprenticeship will focus you along a career path. You do some study as you're working, so it's a practical learning, which also suits some people's learning skills and styles as well. So and it's as I said, it's focused around that specific subject area. Degrees are typically wider. They're focused around learning, the education, the academic side of things. It's broader. Some universities, funny enough, enough, the smaller local universities are beginning to change their approach, whereby it's more practical and more applied learning. But typically and historically, the degree is about the, should I say, the knowledge.
Yes.
And which you can has an advantage because you can take it in different directions. It broadens your mind, your way of thinking, and a lot of organisations will still appreciate a degree over an apprenticeship. So that's the key differences between the two.
Yeah, and I think the important thing as well is to, as parents, be educated ourselves in the options that are available, either prior to or at the time when our children are making that transition. So that, because I remember when my first child was finishing his A-levels, and this is so, I don't know what the odds are, I watched this program on apprenticeship, and it was like the horrible things that could happen, that people were doing, setting up trainings that are not up to the scratch because government gives them money per candidate, you know. So, and I think a few weeks after we had a discussion, and he innocently said something about, but there are apprentices, and I'm like, no, you're not going that route, it's this, it's that, it's, and that was my perception, that was my idea, it was closed. And he said, Mom, I was just having a discussion with you, it's nothing to... But shortly after, in my workplace, we started the apprenticeship program, and that is the NHS. So we have them in accident and emergency, we have them in medical physics, we have them in theaters, we have them, you know. Then I begin to think differently, and I think some of the parents might be in my position where all you've heard about this is gory stories, and it's a no-go area. So it's important to take the time to learn and to educate ourselves as well, so we can support our children. Somebody asked me,
because I would say, I mean, if you are going, I mean, it's just like if you're going to a university, ideally you don't just go to any university. You do your research. What's the reputation of that university? So if this child, for instance, if it's sports or something like Loughborough is known as a good site. So you do the research to have an understanding of what the university is good for. Similarly, if you want a child to go down the apprenticeship route, then it's important to do some research on the provider, find out what their past experience is, what they've done in the past, and the placements. It's also important to understand what type of placements they're able to get for the people on the apprenticeships as well. So
that is something that, I mean, is gaining ground a lot.
Very true.
Then as parents, we just need to be aware. And then there's the other end, which, I mean, it's happening because I've seen it. A child who finished A-levels and said he wanted to become a barber. So, I mean, it's like, no, it's unheard of. But he stood his ground. So when he stood his ground and educated all of us, you know, they were wailing and crying and thinking, you know, what has befallen us. My children were still young at the time, and just like you said about people who think, what people will think about us, I think the group of us parents that were there, the first thing that crossed our mind was, I hope mine doesn't want to be like that when, you know. But these guys stood his ground, and they went to the city to learn from one of the best. And just just like you said again, after 3 years, he went to uni and is now a graduate. So what do we do when, to cope with disappointments of when it goes to that extreme, when a child just finished secondary or A-levels and say, I want to set up shop?
A few things. One thing is, I don't believe it should, the decision of what a child is going to do should start at the point when they're finishing their A-level. It's from a much, I mean, even if it's not primary school that you're beginning, from primary school, you should begin to study a child and understand what they're like and expose them to things. I always talk about when parents' friends come to a house, let them have discussions.
Yes.
I ask the people, what do you do for a living? Why do you do it? Do you enjoy it? So you begin to develop that understanding, that the abilities.
It all starts from the infant level.
It starts from that infant stage. And then I would say as well, I am answering your question, but in a long amount. But it's also work experience as well. So if a child, because that child that decided that he wanted to be a barber didn't just decide when he finished his A-levels, he would have been thinking about it for some time. So I would say work experience. Schools provide work experience. Let children from a youngest age that is practical have work experience of going into that environment and trying it at that stage, and that will give them an idea of what things are like at a practical level. But if a child does get to that stage and decides he wants to be a barber, personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You have people that are award-winning barbers.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, and they're happy.
Now we know, but then.
Okay, so I mean, I thought it was important to say that. But if a child wants to go in a direction, and you believe that's not the right direction, first and foremost, ask yourself why. Is it because of what you want for the child, or you just know the child and know it's not right for the child? And if it's about you, then I think you need to deal with your own issues and look at how you support the child in their direction. If it's the child that and you know the child and you just know within your heart that this isn't the right thing for this child, then I think it's about sitting down and having a conversation with the child in the first instance, understanding what the motives are. Why do you want to do this? I've always wanted to write. I was told it should be a hobby. But what if people had asked me why I wanted to do it, then they didn't know to do that. But if they had done that, they would have been in a better position to direct me. Because I wanted to do it because I cared about people. I wanted to make people happy. And there's a clue there. And so it's finding out what the motivations are. If you haven't gone through that work experience process at an earlier stage, it's an opportunity to say, well, you want to be a barber. Well, I've got a friend, or actually I don't even have a friend, but I know someone that runs a barber shop. Let me get you to go there for a day or two or a week, see what it's like, talk to that person, spend a week, you find you're standing on your feet all day and everything that is involved. And from that experience, do you still want to do it? And if the child wants to some extent, you let the child. Because we all, life, it's not just one straight path.
I get your point, but you know, sometimes to youth especially, some of us seems confused, you know. So this is a point of time when you make your kids your best friends or stuff like that, so that at least growing up you get to see their strength and their weakness. Sometimes the counseling is very important because a youth might seem confused. You know, it's something that really happens. It can happen to anybody, but it mostly happens to growing up kids. You get to a point of time that you want to be this and you want to be this.
Yeah.
The child is not really certain. So there's a point of time where you get involved with their teachers for them to know their strength and their weakness. You know, it really helps. Sometimes counseling is very important.
Counseling, yeah.
Very, 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 very important. It plays a major role because at the end of the day, the child's future lies in it, lies in you, the parent. Because somebody can just say, okay, fine. As at high school, I don't know what I want to do in the future, and at the point of time, the person gets to uni and is confused.
Yeah.
And
doing the subjects, but not quite sure.
Yeah, because you ask them, why are you offering this course? Honestly, I was just giving this course, but deep down, I don't know what I want to be in future. It happens. Grown-up people, they're all confused.
Yeah.
They're all confused. So this is a point of time where parents...
And I think with that, give guidance, direct as you can, but also I think it's important if a young person isn't sure of what they want, encourage them to make broad choices.
Yes.
So that they're not stuck along a particular path. Though there is a reality, you're never really stuck there unless you choose to be stuck there.
That is why being a parent entails a lot, you know.
It does. And you know,
anyone can be a parent, but not anyone can be a good parent.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
Yeah, sure.
It's a very tough job. And then there's the emotions and the behavior that comes from you being disappointed, communicating your disappointment in a way that you don't give them a choice. You know, it does happen.
Yeah.
It's like, is that how you go to uni or end of story? Is that how you do medicine or, is that how you do law or, so how do you handle that? The emotions and the behaviors, especially the way the child will now react.
As I said, I'm not a parent, but as I said, I do have, and it's different for me not being a parent. So I do have a bit more control over those emotions. But I guess it is key to hold back, and I said, reassess yourself. Why am I doing this? Yeah. I love this child. I want the best for this child. I want this child to be happy.
And maybe at the end, being truthful with them as well. Sit them down and say, you know, my reaction to that at that time was because I was shocked, I was disappointed, I wasn't sure. I mean, when I finished secondary school, some of my teachers fell out with me because I had the best result. And from age 5, I'd always wanted to be a nurse. So it's like, you want to waste all of that knowledge or whatever, but, you know, I stood my ground. Even my aunt, whose picture I saw in my grandma's living room. Oh, we have a caller. Hello, who's there?
Hello, this is Tokwe from Kent.
Hello?
Hello, this is Tokwe from Kent.
Who's on the line?
Tokwe from Kent.
Ah, Tokwe, hello. Hi, Tokwe.
How are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so I've been listening to you and your guests, and I'm enjoying the conversation, actually, and I thought I better just call in and chip in.
Oh, thank you.
So I agree with what you're saying, and what I can get out of it is that most of us, as you already alluded to, went down one route, one career route, and then changed when our parents went watching, as it were. You know, and I'm an example of that. I did a first degree in education, and then 2 years later I did a conversion into IT, and I've been in IT now for about 25 years. So what was the point of those 4 years I studied in, you know, that education for? Now, the thing is, our children in this generation, they have a lot more opportunities than we had.
Yes.
And we should, by learning to know them well, you know, identifying their strengths, help them harness, you know, their skills, their abilities, their talents, towards the direction that will facilitate their best life. Not what we think it should be, but what the Lord has destined it to be. You know, we should help them to live their best life, not live vicariously through them. You know, so it's very, very difficult for us because our mindset obviously is different. Our mindset is there's some professions that our children follow, but it may not be their desire, it may not be their calling.
Yes.
So we should try and learn from experience. Our experience is my contribution.
Oh, thank you very much, Tope. That's very useful. Yeah, thanks for your contribution. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Can I
Yes.
possibly add into that? I would just say no knowledge, no experience gained.
Is that another call? Hello? Hello? Who's there?
Hello, Mary.
Hello.
Hi, Mary. It's Bernie here.
Oh, hi, Bonnie. How are you all the way from Ireland?
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Great, thank you. I just wanted very quickly to add a point there.
Yes.
I had 4 children, and each of them decided themselves what they wanted to do after college or after secondary school. Each of them, like, through their hobbies and through seeing other people work in different jobs, they picked their own careers. Like one of them, she's an interpreter and she loves languages.
Wow.
There's one a chef and she cooks.
Wow.
Now, our second child, he's a carpenter who was very, very lucky with his apprenticeship.
Wow.
Because the guy that he did apprenticeship with was actually supposed to have retired a few months before the apprenticeship was up. And he stayed in the trade so the chain could get his apprenticeship finished. He used the apprenticeship then to go to Australia to work there.
Wow.
Okay.
See?
Which is very good.
Yes, yes.
None of them followed either, like their dad or myself, into our careers.
Wow.
That they all picked their own careers.
That is very,
Okay.
yeah, thank you very much, Bonnie. That is very interesting and, you know, like the icing on the cake, really, because it gives us the options and it just drives home what we're talking about and, you know, to encourage us actually to support these children to be what they want to be.
Yeah. Because, I mean...
Yeah, to be unique. Like, we can't live our lives through our children.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had our chance, we had our dreams.
Yes.
And if they didn't come to fruit when we were teenagers, we can't expect our children to, like, live our dreams.
That's good. That's true. That is very
So
true.
it's their
We tend to
turn now.
forget that. Yeah, we tend to forget that.
Yeah.
You know.
And I would just say...
Okay.
No.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Catch up later.
No
would
problem.
say-
Good night and God bless.
Okay. Bye.
I will get it. I would say no knowledge or experience gained is lost. So even if they make mistakes and they go down a path that we believe is not right for them, and it turns out not to be the best thing for them, that's not the end of the road. And what you will find, and what they will find, I found, and most people will find, is as long as they enable it to be the case, they will still be using of those experiences consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. You know what? We're nearing the end of the show now, and I just want to home in on what Bernie said about we cannot pass on our lives to them. I looked up the definition of parents, and it says it's an animal or plant from which new ones are created, a source or origin of a smaller, less important. And I think as parents, half the time we have that mentality in our head that they are mini-me. Yes, they are mini-me, but it stops from, you know, when we bring them out as mini-me, then, you know, they have to find their way in life and find their path in life.
I won't dispute the fact that every parent, every concerned parent will feel disappointed. The very first day you hear, or the very first time you hear your son or your beloved daughter saying something like, this is what I want to become, you know, because like she said, like Bunny said earlier, that their dreams that a parent's dream is different from obviously
dreams,
it's their dreams that my son will be a medical doctor, my daughter will be, so hearing this out of your daughter's mouth or your son's mouth saying this is what I want to be, at least you feel a bit disheartened, obviously, but it shouldn't
affect the relationship
between you and your, you know.
So as parents, we have a lot of work to do.
A lot. a lot.
Letting go and
yes.
people as they are.
And opening our minds and supporting each other, actually. I want to be able to rise up and count how my children are doing and tell my friends where they are at without thinking, oh, yeah, he's in Uxbridge, and, you know, so no, it's good to be there and happy for whoever is there, but at the same time, like Nick Clegg yesterday was saying, that there's a certain snobbery at vocation and other areas, but now the government is looking into making it more attractive and to be recognized, because like you rightly said, how many jobs are out there, whereas people with vocation, entrepreneurship, or any other area, they'll, I mean, Bunny's son is in Australia, hello, you know, yeah. So I think as parents, we have a lot to do. We've come to the end of the show, but I want to say thank you very much to the two of you, and tell us a bit more about where we can find you.
Okay, fine. You can find us on Facebook and on Instagram as IAM_101 Clothing, and you can call our numbers. All our details happen to be on the social media, so they can
101
get to us.
Clothing.
101 Clothing.
Yeah.
And
you're in the pipeline for another award.
Yeah.
The
CA award.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
No, you have to just look in the camera.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So the people at home can hear you.
Yeah, and
see you.
Yeah, sure. I'm a nominee for Best Designer category at the CA Award, which I'm hopefully, you know, I'm
rooting for you,
yeah,
Susan.
Thank you. The easiest way to find me is at susanpapula.com. And I guess spelling of my surname, Susan, is SUSAN, Papula, POPOOLA, and that's .com. Or if you just Google me, you're likely to find me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, and I really appreciate your presence here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's been an enjoyable evening, and I hope and I know that you've learned a lot, both as youths, as our children, and as our parents as well. Something I want to bring to your attention is the Live the Life You Love seminar and workshop, which is coming up in Nigeria on the 24th of July, which is next week, Friday. Details will be on social media and on our website on www.glowingfuture.org.uk. The flyers will be out soon. So on that note, next week we wouldn't have a live program because we'll be in Nigeria supporting our people in that sense. But in the meantime, join the conversation on Facebook. Glow with Mary is a closed group, but if you ask to join, one of the administrators will let you on it. You follow us on Twitter at Glowing Future. So until we meet again, take care of yourself and live the life you love. Thank you.